Creating new videos every other day means it takes up quite a bit of time and effort, and balancing that out with the other commitments in my life means that I'm pretty busy most of the time, which is fine because I love this franchise and what it meant to me growing up and even until now. But creating videos on Star Wars goes beyond just simply loving Star Wars. To explain to you why I do what I do, I need to go back in time, back to when I was just a kid. Personally, I've always been jealous of Star Wars fans older than me who got to see the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy as it came out in cinemas. So my introduction to Star Wars was through a box of CDs. As a child with little understanding of Star Wars and with no one to tell me otherwise, I watched the movies in order of the episode number from 1 to 6. So you could say I was robbed of the biggest plot twist in cinema history, and robbed of a viewing experience that every Star Wars fan older than me had the privilege of experiencing. So you could imagine my elation when The Force Awakens was announced. Finally, I could experience what I yearned for all these years. Finally, I could live Star Wars as it happened, when it happened. Then The Last Jedi came out. Mind you, I don't hate the sequel trilogy. Personally, I actually enjoyed most of it. While it was not the greatest, it was still alright. After all, I got what I wanted, right? Living the Star Wars experience through the hype and escapist fun. Then the backlash came. Ugly, strong, and unforgiving. It left me with a hole in my heart, a void of emptiness that we as Star Wars fans, as a community, couldn't enjoy something we all love together. Even after watching The Rise of Skywalker, it still left me somewhat unsettled. I didn't think it was a terrible movie, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something missing, a sense of emptiness that I shouldn't have felt. It all seemed wrong. For the next couple of months, I would scroll through the internet and be confronted with the wide, ugly wound that is the division within the Star Wars community. Fans who should be united in the love for this franchise were tearing themselves apart, a wound so deep that toxicity began to fester and grow. It truly was an empty feeling. Then came The Mandalorian Season 1, a show universally loved by all Star Wars fans. I, of course, enjoyed it, but I still couldn't help but have a sense of weariness and dread each time I surfed through Star Wars content on the internet. A certain tiredness that would wash over me in unforgiving waves, a fatigue of the bashing and toxicity which still persisted. Soon after The Mandalorian Season 2 knocked on our doors, and suddenly, I could feel the anticipation and the excitement, a feeling so deep and pure that I had not felt since the trailer dropped for Star Wars The Force Awakens. I started this channel because I wanted to not only share my love for Star Wars, but to also have conversations with other like-minded Star Wars fans as well. And my desire for this became especially apparent halfway through Season 2 of The Mandalorian. And it was fun for a while, posting theories and speculation on what's next, because after all the divisiveness of the sequel trilogy, it really seemed as though the Star Wars fandom was back together again, and Luke showing up just seemed to say that everything was going to be okay. The Mandalorian came and went, and what was next offered a whole different era of Star Wars to explore. And sure, during this time leading up to the launch of the High Republic, there was plenty of hate and trashing, but I've always held the assumption that once the launch happened, and people finally got the chance to explore what this new era had to offer, more people would swing around and keep moving this fandom in the right direction, one of positivity and hope. But it didn't. As the High Republic released its first few stories, the negativity didn't seem to dissipate. Instead, it intensified and it started to spread. More and more YouTube channels, big and small, started to jump on this bandwagon, and it continued to baffle me to this day as someone who is enjoying the High Republic so far. It all just seems so disheartening. But it made me reflect on myself. I started to ask myself, why do I do it? What exactly is it that I want to achieve from all these videos beyond just being another fan? Throughout all these experiences, I've begun to realize that this fandom has lost a sense of empathy. A large segment of this fandom has been so hyper-focused on being unforgiving that it has seemingly lost sense of what was important. So many of us are consumed by this anger and hate that as a fandom we have perhaps failed to remember what George Lucas was trying to tell us for so many years. That anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And this fandom is suffering. As a collective, we have been so consumed by lashing out in hatred that what is truly killing this franchise isn't bad storytelling. Star Wars has always had some level of bad storytelling. It's been a part of the franchise since the original trilogy, but over time, we've come to love it anyway, because what truly is killing this franchise is the fandom itself. So many of us have been holding on to this idea and the unchanging image of what Star Wars is supposed to be that we haven't been able to truly accept anything new. We saw this happen when the prequels came out, and we are now seeing it today. We have held on to this idealized notion of what Star Wars should be. We haven't stopped ourselves to consider what it could be. Star Wars was always meant for a younger audience, and it is this intention that has managed to keep the franchise alive for so long. Because with every new generation comes a new generation of Star Wars fans, yet we seem to have forgotten all about this. And with younger audiences who do enjoy the sequel trilogy for all its ups and downs, and who are exposed to the internet, I can't help but wonder if this hate will end up pushing new fans away, because it is hard for me to imagine being part of a fandom that tells me to hate the very thing that I love. And so I wanted to be different. I wanted to make sure that my channel not only reflected what I felt, but also spread some empathy back into the fandom. To say no, I won't subscribe to this continued cycle of hate. To build a community that holds true to the values that Star Wars teaches us, of hope, of optimism, and of empathy. After all, it is empathy that allows Luke to save Vader. It is empathy that made Han turn the Millennium Falcon around. It is empathy that allowed Rey to reach out to Ben in the first place. If we as fans are devoid of any empathy, then we become the villains of this story. We become the Palpatines, the Tarkins, and the Snokes of this universe. We become a part of the dark side. I am building this channel as a place where we can have different opinions on what works and what doesn't, but this difference isn't a cause for hate. This difference is a cause for celebration that we all feel so deeply for this galaxy far, far away. In recent months, I've come to realize that I want my channel to be that beacon of hope, that there is a community and place for people who are willing to accept a difference in perspective, for people who aren't willing to deal in absolutes. And I recognize that this will be a struggle. This also means that I won't get the easy clicks and views that other channels have profited from, but that's okay, because this fandom will see a brighter day, not by fighting what we hate, but by saving what we love. And even if you think that this line was cheesy or misplaced, I think that behind it is the right idea. Because how can you build anything up if you're so focused on tearing things down? And I want to leave you with this quote that actually doesn't come from Star Wars, but from a little movie called Ratatouille. In many ways, the work of a critic is easy. We risk very little, yet enjoy a position over those who offer up their work and themselves to our judgment. We thrive on negative criticism, which is fun to write and to read. But the bitter truth we critics must face is that in the grand scheme of things, the average piece of junk is probably more meaningful than our criticisms designating it so. But there are times when a critic truly risks something, and that is in the discovery and the defense of the new. The world is often unkind to new talent, new creations. The new needs friends. So that's what I want this channel to be all about, to be a friend of the new and to refocus on what is truly important: empathy, compassion, and hope.